I gave them everything, my time, my love, my future. Christina rose to power on my back. Tanya became a national scientist with my help. And yet, they left me bleeding under a chandelier while they ran to save an intern. It wasn't even subtle. They didn't hesitate. 1 second, I was standing there watching them smile at Harry like he was the sun, and the next, the chandelier crashed, glass slicing through my skin, bones snapping on impact. I looked up, waiting for one of them to come rushing to me, calling my name in panic. But instead, all I saw was them kneeling over him, crying over a scratch on his cheek while I lay there, choking on my own blood. When I tried to speak, Christina cut me off. "Why were you even standing there?" she snapped. Tanya added, "Do you know how dangerous that was for Harry? Were you trying to make him look bad?" I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming. They really thought I had planned it, like I wanted to take out their precious new pet. I patched myself up alone that night. Couldn't even go to the hospital, too many reporters waiting to spin more headlines. So I wrapped the gauze with trembling hands, cleaned the wounds until I nearly passed out, and stared at the blinking panel hovering in front of me. The system, for 20 years it had been dormant, silent, like me, but now, after all this time, it had finally returned. "Host," the voice said, calm and detached, glowing text flickering to life across the panel. "Your performance score has surpassed the success threshold. You now have permission to exit this dimension. Countdown, 15 days remaining." My fingers clenched the gauze tighter, staining it red again. "I can leave?" "Yes. As reward for full mission completion, you are permitted to bring 2 items back with you." I laughed, not out loud, just the kind that sits deep in your chest, like ash. I thought about it, only 2 things after 20 years of building empires with my bare hands and enduring heartbreak that I hadn't even earned. "Then I'll take Christina's empire," I said without pause, "and Tanya's genius." A soft ding confirmed the transaction. Items locked, extraction in 15 days. The system disappeared. Silence returned. My reflection in the glass door barely looked like me anymore. Tired eyes, a scar that hadn't healed, a face that no one would cry over if it vanished. The photo on the wall above the grand piano still had all 3 of us smiling in it, Christina, Tanya, and me. That was years ago, before the startup, before the Nobel, before Harry. We were just 3 kids from a forgotten orphanage, scraping our way up, clawing toward something better. I had been sent to this world to make them fall in love with me. That was the system's mission. Just that, make them fall for you, then leave. Simple. So I picked the 2 girls who had nothing, who looked at me like I was something. I didn't know love back then, but I learned it in their eyes. In the nights we spent hungry together, when I gave them my food and survived on tap water. In the bruises I hid so they wouldn't cry. In the dreams we whispered under a leaking roof. I earned their love the hard way, I bled for it, and when I was allowed to go, I stayed. I gave up everything I had earned, spent every point, made Christina a queen in the capital, gave Tanya intelligence enhanced by the system, let them live the dreams they had forgotten how to dream. And when Harry came along, they dropped me like a spare coin. The system told me I could go back, go home. It was the first time in 20 years that I didn't hesitate. No more staying behind for anyone, no more second chances. I would take back what I gave, leave them with nothing, let them rot with the stray they chose. I'd already sacrificed once, never again. Let them see who Harry protects when the wealth and fame disappear. Let's see how long his kindness lasts when the light's gone. Let's see how well they beg in the dark. The first time I opened my eyes in this world, I was 12. The room was small, sterile, unfamiliar, and the voice in my head spoke only once. "Welcome, host. You have been transported to fulfill your assigned mission. Objective: make 2 targets fall in love with you. Return permitted after completion." I didn't understand the language, not fully, but I understood loneliness. The world I'd come from, wherever it was, no longer mattered. All that mattered were the coordinates, the orphanage on the outskirts of Eastfell. It wasn't a home, it was a prison dressed up as charity. Cold tiles, mold on the ceiling, staff who didn't care, the ones who did, shouldn't have been allowed near children. If you kept your head down, you might get dinner. If you didn't fight back, you became practice. I learned quickly. But so did she. Christina, age 11, silent, sharp-eyed, already good at lying to survive. She wasn't the type to cry, she was the type to remember everything, especially kindness, or cruelty. Tanya was different, younger by a year, all knees and elbows, scrawny from missed meals. Her eyes were always wide with hope, even when it made no sense. She clung to the belief that someone would come for her. I didn't have the heart to break it. I was the oldest and the strongest. The system didn't give me brute strength, but it adjusted my reflexes, enhanced my endurance, just enough to keep me alive long enough to matter. So I protected them. The first time one of the staff raised a hand to Christina, I stood in the way, took the belt, didn't cry. She held my hand the next day and didn't let go. When Tanya collapsed from hunger, I pretended I wasn't hungry and gave her my rice. I told her I had eaten. I hadn't. She gave me a wilted flower the next morning. That was her way of saying thank you. We grew up together like that, 3 broken kids in a broken place, making something soft from scraps of hell. I taught Christina how to read faster, helped her fake her age to qualify for early business programs. When she was accepted to a startup competition, I sold off my meager possessions to pay for her transport. I told the staff I was too sick for school so she could take my spot at the community center. She cried once. Just once. When she won her first grant. Then she made me promise to be there when she owned a company someday. I helped Tanya with her experiments. She was always curious, always scribbling notes in the dark on napkins or cardboard. The system helped. I used my enhancement points, little by little, boosting her mental capacity in increments she never noticed. She thought it was sleep, or coffee, or drive. She was a genius. She just needed a system. I gave her mine. By the time we were 25, Christina had launched her first tech platform, Streamline, which exploded within 2 years into a media titan. Tanya's lab had published 3 white papers. She was now nationally recognized for developing the first energy-stable biotech filament. Me? I stayed behind the curtain. By choice. The system pinged once during those years. Both targets have fallen in love with you. Exit available. But I didn't leave. I chose to stay. I didn't tell them I wasn't from this world. I didn't tell them they were part of a mission. I didn't tell them they were never supposed to fall for the same man, nor that I was never supposed to fall for either of them. But I did. And that's why I stayed. Christina would sometimes leave a keycard on my desk, silent invitation. A penthouse night, her expression unreadable, her fingers threading through my hair like I was hers. But in the morning, she was already dressed, back in CEO mode, calling investors. She never asked me to stay, but she always left the door unlocked. Tanya, on the other hand, loved through action. She built a personalized blood monitor for me when I got sick from stress. She sent meals to my office every day. She remembered what flavor tea helped my headaches. She said she didn't want anything from me, except maybe one day I could call her my home. I never did. I couldn't. Because they both loved me in ways I didn't deserve. And I could never choose one without destroying the other. We stayed balanced for a while, a quiet triangle no one acknowledged, built on shared history, survival, and silence. And then Harry arrived. He was an intern, at first, scrawny, awkward, always smiling like the world owed him nothing. Tanya liked his curiosity, Christina liked his ambition. I didn't like how often he looked at them. I told myself it wasn't jealousy. I told myself I had no right. But it was there. Every time Tanya laughed at his jokes I'd heard before. Every time Christina softened her voice to ask if he'd eaten. And slowly, they stopped looking at me like they used to. It started with a missed lunch. Then a rescheduled meeting. Then Tanya asking if I could give Harry a chance. He's really talented, she said. You of all people should understand what it's like being overlooked. That cut deeper than she knew, because I had spent years making sure she was never overlooked, and now she was asking me to step aside. Then came the awards gala. Christina walked in with Harry on her arm. I was 3 feet behind her. No cameras turned my way. Tanya gave her keynote and thanked Harry for assisting in her latest project. She didn't mention me. The final blow came on my birthday. They threw a party, grand, public, lights, cameras, shareholders. I stood on the marble stage, confused when the lights dimmed. That's when the chandelier dropped. I saw it falling, too slow to move. I expected them to rush to me. I waited for them. But they ran to him. Harry had a small cut on his forehead. Tanya tore her dress to bandage it. Christina barked orders at security to call a medic. I was bleeding across the floor, ribs cracked, glass embedded in my back, and they didn't even look. Later, they accused me of staging the incident, of trying to sabotage the company, of turning the attention away from Harry. Christina's words were clinical, Tanya's were disappointed. Harry stood silent, wearing my life like a borrowed suit. That night, the system reawakened. 15 days left, and I could take two things. The decision was instant. Christina's empire, because she built it on my sacrifices. Tanya's genius, because she solved problems with my system. They gave their love to a stranger and fed me to the shadows. So I would return the favor. The signs were always there, I just didn't want to see them. It started small, subtle, almost thoughtful. Christina began modifying our office lunch orders. She used to ask what I wanted first. Now, the caterers came with trays labeled, Harry, gluten-free, Harry, no cilantro, Harry, dairy-free substitute. My plate came late, sometimes not at all. I didn't complain, it wasn't worth it, not when I'd once watched her walk 3 miles barefoot just to bring me a bowl of soup during flu season. Tanya, too, shifted. She used to brew tea for me, specifically jasmine and lemon balm, for my headaches. But now, I'd catch her Googling new vitamin blends for people with weaker immune systems. That meant Harry, who coughed once during a meeting and received a full week of home-cooked meals. She delivered them herself. In Tupperware, with his name written in cursive. I asked once, lightly, "Did you forget my birthday's coming up next week?" She blinked. "Right. But I don't think we can celebrate this time. Harry's recovering. I'm helping him set up his apartment." Set up his apartment, on my birthday. I shrugged. No problem. That year, I still got a gift, from Christina, a watch, slim, platinum, understated. I wore it every day. Then one afternoon, I found Harry wearing it. "You left it at the lab," Tanya said behind him. Harry liked it, thought it matched his style better. I looked at Christina. She didn't blink. "You don't mind, do you?" she asked, perfectly cool. "It's just a watch." And I nodded. Because apparently, I was the kind of man who could be borrowed from. My birthday came anyway. Despite no planned celebration, Christina surprised me with a party at the company ballroom. Tanya was there, Harry too, all the board members, cameras, reporters, investors, everyone but me had known. I stepped onto the marble floor, trying not to limp from the fractured toe I hadn't told anyone about. A red carpet had been rolled out, glass chandeliers twinkled above, too many lights, too many eyes. Christina handed me a microphone. Tanya smiled for the press. I barely recognized them anymore. Harry stood in the back, drink in hand, watching, like he was evaluating me. That's when it happened. He approached me in front of everyone, smiling, casually. "Hey Daryl, can I borrow you for a second?" Before I could answer, he grabbed my arm and guided me just slightly left, under the largest chandelier in the room. He leaned in, pretending to whisper. "I've always admired how easily you let things go," he said softly. Something in me froze. Then came the crash. The sound was deafening. Screams, screeching metal, shards of crystal exploded like stars around me. The world spun as my body slammed into the marble. My shoulder cracked, blood filled my mouth, my back, crushed, people screamed. I tried to lift my head. I saw Christina first, heels clicking as she ran, but not toward me. She dropped beside Harry, who had a thin cut on his cheek. "Are you hurt? Look at me! Harry, look at me!" Tanya followed, kneeling at his side. "Where's the med kit? We need to disinfect that." My ears rang. I couldn't breathe. I was choking on blood, on betrayal. Not a glance, not one of them even looked at me. A security guard finally ran toward me, not because I was bleeding, but because Harry pointed at me. I tried to pull him back, Harry said loudly, for the cameras. I told him not to stand there. He insisted, said he wanted attention. That's when Christina finally turned. Her eyes were cold, calculating. "Daryl, please don't make this harder than it has to be." I tried to speak, tried to rise. He brought me there. He pulled me under it. Tanya's face was disappointment incarnate. "You're accusing Harry, after everything he's done for us?" "For us?" I rasped. "Stop this," Christina said flatly. "Harry's kind. He'd never hurt you." "I was there," I coughed. "You saw him." "What we saw," Tanya cut in, "was you trying to steal focus from a company milestone event, again." That broke something in me. They weren't just blind. They had chosen not to see. I staggered to my feet with blood dripping down my shirt, every step screaming in pain. Nobody helped, not Christina, not Tanya. Certainly not Harry, who now stood with a hand on his chest, flanked by 2 guards, as if he were the one under threat. The car ride home was silent. I didn't call a medic. I didn't need one. The moment the door to my apartment closed, I said the words, "System, reactivate." The air shifted. "Welcome back, host. Remaining days, 15. You may bring 2 things." I stared at the glowing interface forming in the center of the room. Familiar, cold, my oldest friend, the only one who never asked for anything but a mission. I wiped the blood from my chin with the sleeve of a shirt Christina had once gifted me, then I answered, "Christina's empire." The system pulsed. "Accepted." And Tanya's genius. Another pulse. "Accepted. Do you wish to initiate the download of host data?" "Yes. All memories, all modifications, all blueprints." "Confirmed." I stood there, body broken but back straight. They built everything they had on me. Now I would take everything back. The first thing I gave away was Max. He was a mutt, rescued during a flood when Christina nearly drowned. We'd named him after a cartoon character Tanya loved. He used to sleep beside me during storms, bark at Harry every time he walked in. Good instincts. I handed his leash to the shelter worker on a rainy morning, didn't even say goodbye, just signed the papers and walked away. No one noticed Max was gone. The next week, I began the extraction. I called the company's off-grid proxy, set up for emergencies only. Over the course of 3 days, I liquidated my shares in Christina Holdings. All 48% of them. Through shell corporations and burner accounts. Every thread I'd ever sewn into her empire, I began to unweave. I didn't warn her. Let her laugh at board meetings with Harry. Let her believe the empire was still standing strong. She never noticed the base shaking beneath her. Back at home, I moved on to the photos. One by one, I took down every frame in the hall. Wedding pictures, celebrations, hospital recoveries, boardroom victories, late-night ramen shots. Each one featured me somewhere, sometimes at the edge of the frame, sometimes holding the camera, sometimes holding them. I digitally edited each one, removing myself, replaced by blank space, then I reprinted them and put them back up. It was almost funny, the way Christina paused in front of one and said, "I love this one," not realizing her husband had been erased from it. It was always Harry now. He made pancakes that burnt, he played the piano off-key, he kissed her like he'd practiced in front of a mirror, and still, she laughed, they all did. One evening, I came home early. Tanya was leaning on the kitchen counter, laughing so hard she nearly dropped a glass of wine. Harry was doing impressions of old professors. Christina was curled up on the couch, barefoot, smiling at a man who used to be a background actor. That night, the master bedroom changed. "Daryl," Christina called out softly as I entered the room. I paused at the door. She didn't look guilty, just awkward. "So, Harry has been staying late a lot, and we figured it's silly to have you and him bumping into each other every morning. The guest room's a little quieter, you understand, right?" I looked at the bed. Our bed. Their bed now. I said nothing. Just turned around and walked down the hallway. The guest room was dusty, the sheets were unused, I didn't mind. Later that night, I heard Christina giggling through the walls. She used to laugh like that with me. The next morning, Tanya stopped me near the stairs. "You okay?" she asked, chewing on a piece of toast. "Fine." "You don't seem fine." I looked at her. "You remember when I got hit by a car outside the lab?" I asked. Her brow furrowed. "Of course. You pushed me aside." "I lost 3 ribs," I said flatly. "You stayed with me every night at the hospital. You fed me. You held my hand." She blinked, confused. "I did." "And now," I added, "you sleep with the man who pulled a chandelier on me." The toast fell from her hand. "Daryl, I'm not angry," I said, "just observing." Christina came downstairs then, dressed in pale satin. She looked surprised to see us talking. "Morning," she said, moving quickly to my side. "We were going to ask, would you mind handling the board meeting tomorrow? Harry and I are flying to Vienna, just for a week." Our company? I asked. Our anniversary, she corrected. Harry's planning something special. I stared at her. This was always your house, she added quickly. You know that. My voice was quiet. Then why was I never asked? The room fell still. Tanya shifted, awkwardly. We didn't mean to. I'm not asking for anything, I interrupted. Just let me be invisible. I'm good at that. They exchanged glances, the kind shared between people trying not to feel guilty. The kind that said, let him fade, it's easier this way. And I did. I stopped eating meals with them, started cooking alone, at night, when everyone was asleep. Left for meetings before dawn, returned after midnight. I became a shadow in my own home. They redecorated the living room, new rugs, new curtains, no one asked me. They changed the passcode to the office wing, said it was an accident. I didn't correct them, I just watched. One night, Tanya stood at my door. I miss you, she whispered. I didn't open it. I still remember that summer we lived in the storage unit together, she said. How you made up stories so I wouldn't cry. I stayed silent. I'm sorry, Daryl, for whatever part I played in this. She walked away after that. And still, the countdown ticked. The night before the National Design Summit, I stood alone in the studio. My prototype glowed under soft light, a floating kinetic sculpture inspired by our orphanage's crumbling ceiling. The piece symbolized falling dreams that still danced in the air. I named it Flight in Ruins. It was mine. Every bolt, every calculation, every programmed movement. When the judges called my name for first place, the applause felt muted, but it was mine, at last, something that couldn't be taken, until they did. 15 minutes later, as I stood in front of flashing cameras, a commotion broke out near the main screen. Another sculpture was being revealed. Identical, down to the last screw. Title, Fragments of Flight. Author, Harry Lenfield. The crowd gasped, journalists swarmed. I turned, stunned, as Harry stood center stage, eyes wide with perfect tremble, lips parted in trembling denial. This is a mistake, he said breathlessly, already turning his camera on himself. I swear I didn't copy anyone. I've had this idea for months. Please don't ruin my career over this. Hashtags began trending before I could speak. Justice for Harry. Hashtag Daryl stole it. Hashtag let Harry create. 10 minutes later, Christina retweeted the video with 3 words. I vouch for him. That was all. No hesitation, just loyalty, misplaced and immediate. Tanya pinned the post on her official page. I saw Harry sketching this back in April. It's his original idea. Please be kind. That one hit harder. April was when I had my seizure in the workshop. Tanya stayed up 3 nights in the lab while I coded this design by hand, fingers trembling. She brought me coffee and laid her head on my shoulder when I finally hit compile. And now, she gave my design to a man who cried better. Within hours, the backlash reached volcanic levels. Corporate sponsors pulled out, studio investors released statements condemning unethical appropriation. My inbox overflowed with hate. Thief, liar, leech. By morning, my personal accounts were suspended, my public lectures were cancelled, collaborators ghosted. My name became synonymous with fraud. I tried to call Tanya. She answered after the 3rd ring. Tanya, I said, my voice hoarse. Tell me this is a mistake. She was quiet, then. Harry didn't steal. He used my exact render engine, Tanya. He said he worked independently. And you believe him? She hesitated. He's not like that. Do you remember when we were 17? I said. When you failed your science project and I rewrote it from scratch while you cried in the hallway? And when the school accused you of plagiarism, who stood up for you? Silence. Me, I answered. Because you didn't plagiarize, and I knew it. Daryl, she whispered, maybe you both came up with similar designs. It happens. It doesn't happen down to the motor specifications. Still, she said nothing. I hung up. Then I tried Christina. She answered instantly, voice clipped and businesslike. Daryl? You saw the design files, I said. You know which ones I showed you, you know what's mine. I do. Then why did you vouch for him? He's just starting out, she said flatly. You're established. You'll recover. I won't. You always bounce back. I've lost everything. You'll be fine, Daryl. And then, softly, like she was offering comfort. It doesn't matter who's right. This would crush Harry. My throat dried. You think I care about that? You should. The line went silent. I stood alone in the studio, surrounded by fragments of my reputation. Reporters were outside, protesters online. Every email I opened stung like acid. The chandelier incident had been forgotten. Now, I was the villain, and they were his guardians. I walked into the basement, opened the old system file on a black terminal I'd built when I still believed in this world. 2 options blinked on the screen: erase from this world, begin final countdown. I selected both. The lights flickered, a low hum echoed in the walls. Everything I had ever done, every file, every patent, every contract, was locked in a dead man's vault, set to release in 14 days. Until then, I would be silent, unreachable, a ghost inside their machine. They would forget me, and the world would forget them. It started on a Monday. Christina woke to the blinding white of luxury linen sheets, except they were stiff, low thread count, scratchy, the kind used in budget hotels. Her hand reached instinctively to the nightstand for her Cartier bracelet. Gone. The table was gone too. She blinked and sat up. The chandelier above the bed, the one Daryl had imported from Prague for her birthday, was gone. No, the entire bedroom had changed. Bare walls, dusty curtains, a creaky wooden bed, no gold trimming, no velvet carpeting. A cheap apartment? She scrambled to her feet and stormed into the hallway. Tanya, she screamed. Tanya! The door to the next room swung open, and Tanya emerged, barefoot, hair frizzed, blinking hard. Her glasses were broken at the hinge, barely clinging to her face. Where the hell are we? I thought we were home, Christina snapped. This isn't Beaumont Estate. No kidding. Christina turned and tried to open the front door. It was already ajar. And outside were 4 uniformed officers and 2 angry men in construction helmets. Ma'am, one officer barked. This building is scheduled for demolition. What are you doing inside? What? Christina spat. I own this house. No record shows that. This is my mansion. The taller officer raised an eyebrow. Your mansion, ma'am, this property hasn't had a legal owner in 12 years. It's been abandoned. Christina shoved past him. Call my assistant. Call. She stopped. Her phone wasn't in her hand. It wasn't anywhere. She turned to Tanya. Use your neural access. Tanya blinked. What? Use the chip. Open your assistant interface. Tanya shook her head, confused. I can't feel it. I don't think it's there. What do you mean it's not there? I mean, Tanya whispered, I can't remember how to use it. The officer was speaking again. Ma'am, I'm going to need to see ID. Christina laughed bitty. Early. You don't recognize me? Christina Lovelace, CEO of Lovelace Enterprises, founder of CloudMind, AuroraLink, and 6 AI patents. He stared blankly. Never heard of it. Tanya stepped forward. Dr. Tanya Vo, Nobel Prize for Microcellular Regeneration, face of the Next Gen Awards, top of Forbes 30 under 30? Lady, the officer muttered, you sound insane. You're making a mistake, Christina shrieked. Check the global records, call the White House if you have to. Ma'am, you're under arrest for unlawful trespass. Tanya blinked rapidly, backing away. Wait, this doesn't make sense. I can prove it. I just need Daryl. Call Daryl. Christina froze. Daryl, of course. He'd fix this. He always did. She spun toward the bedroom, grabbing the dusty rotary phone mounted on the wall. She tried to dial his number. It rang. Twice, then. The number you are trying to reach does not exist. Christina looked down at the receiver in her hand like it had grown teeth. Tanya paced behind her, hyperventilating. He was here, she whispered. Just days ago, he was here. He said we had 15 days. What? That's what he said, that the system gave him 15 days. Christina felt a cold rush down her spine. What system, Tanya? The one that brought him here, Tanya murmured. Remember, from the beginning. When we were kids in the orphanage, he always said he wasn't from here. That was a joke, Christina insisted. But her voice cracked. Tanya wasn't listening. I think he left. I think he used the system to go back, or forward, or nowhere, and I think he took it all with him. Christina shook her head violently. That's not possible. Isn't it? Tanya said, voice sharp. Where's our company? Where's our home? My IQ? I can't remember how my own work functions. I tried to recite the Nobel formula I invented. I forgot the first variable. They were interrupted by a bang. The officers kicked open the front door. Tanya and Christina were handcuffed, hauled into a police cruiser, screaming, pleading. As the sirens faded behind them, a construction worker walked inside and opened a tablet to review property data. Owner, unclaimed. Last registry, null. He blinked. Weird, he mumbled. The house was real, but no history, no deed, no origin, just a shell, scheduled to be demolished by morning. Christina and Tanya were processed and detained. No fingerprints found, no criminal records, no birth certificates, no identity. Their biometrics returned blank. The officer in charge stared at his screen. Who the hell are you? They were released 6 hours later, barefoot and confused. Outside the station, Tanya saw the National Science Board building. She ran to the glass doors. Inside, her giant framed photo used to hang in the lobby, Dr. Tanya Vo, with her invention displayed like a relic. Now, the wall was blank. She pressed her face to the glass, desperate. Inside was a reception desk. Excuse me, she shouted, banging on the door. I'm Tanya Vo, Nobel laureate. I founded... A guard stepped out. Back away. I'm on the board. There's no one by that name on record. But? Leave now, or we call security. Christina walked aimlessly down the street, past a billboard that once had her company's holographic ad, now replaced by a clothing brand she'd never seen. She tried to find their office building, gone. In its place was a flower shop. She tried calling contacts. Every number, no record found. Even her name returned 0 results. She found a public kiosk and opened her name search. Christina Lovelace, no results. She tried Tanya's. No results. She tried Daryl. Still, no results. Then she typed, Lovelace Enterprises. Did you mean, Loveless Enterprises? Her lips trembled. He didn't leave. He erased them. Not just from the present, from the past, from history, from digital traces. On memory. They wandered for days, homeless. The AI cafes wouldn't serve them, facial recognition blocked them. The banks refused access, friends disconnected. One afternoon, they found an old mutual friend, Elise, their former legal advisor. Christina rushed up. Elise. Elise blinked, confused. Do I know you? Tanya and we worked together. You were our lawyer. I think you're confusing me with someone else, Elise said coolly. Tanya stepped forward. Please, ask Daryl. He'll explain everything. Who? Daryl, Elise frowned. I don't know a Daryl. Christina fell to her knees. Tanya stood frozen, mouth agape. She whispered, he didn't just leave us. Christina's voice cracked, hollow and disbelieving. He rewrote us. Tanya's eyes widened, and for the first time in her genius-coded life, she had no explanation. They wandered into an alley and sat behind a broken billboard. Rain began to fall, cold, heavy, silent. No messages came, no calls, no names spoken, no memory left, only the emptiness of a world that had never heard of Christina Lovelace or Dr. Tanya Vo. Because the man they left bleeding had taken everything with him. The first call went unanswered, so did the second, then the third, then the 100th. Every message Christina left returned the same automated line, no matter how she worded it, no matter how many tears cracked her voice. System WIX-93, no user found. Tanya, once the celebrated prodigy of biomedical physics, was now struggling to type correctly. Her once unmatched precision was gone. Numbers danced out of reach. Concepts she invented now read like foreign code. The world no longer remembered her as a genius, because the mind she had wasn't hers to begin with. Christina slammed her phone against the pavement. This is wrong, this can't be happening. They tried visiting former co-workers, nobody remembered them. Tried accessing financial accounts, every login failed. Christina's birth record now listed no affiliation with any corporation. Tanya's diploma was missing from the university registry. Even their own faces on old award posts had been blurred or replaced, tagged as invalid data. Christina gritted her teeth. We need to find him. They began walking, and then, they saw him. Every screen in the plaza lit up at once. Nobel Global Forum, live. The man on stage had Daryl's face. He stood confidently behind the Panda Corp emblem, now an international tech conglomerate. Flashes lit the room, media scrambled to quote him, cameras zoomed into his sharp expression, no longer the quiet, patient man they knew, but a polished visionary in a crisp obsidian suit, every word composed, every gesture rehearsed. Christina gasped. That's him. Tanya dropped the coffee cup she was holding. Daryl. No. Not Daryl. The name on the stage backdrop read, George Wang, CEO, tech billionaire, multi-patent Nobel recipient. He finished his speech and walked off stage, disappearing behind velvet curtains. The two women raced toward the backstage exit, shoving past security, yells. Ling, sobbing. It's us, Daryl, it's us, Christina, Tanya. He turned and blinked like he didn't know them. Security blocked them instantly, but George simply raised a hand and said calmly, please escort these strangers out of the building, make sure they get water. Tanya's knees buckled. Christina screamed as the door closed between them, her palms slamming against glass. He had looked into their eyes, and truly not known them. Or maybe, he did. And chose not to. Somewhere across the city, Makoto, now exposed as Harry, sat in a glass office sweating bullets. Every second, another email from legal came in, each more threatening. He'd unknowingly signed a trap contract with Panda Corp, one filled with good faith repayment clauses, where every mistake multiplied his debt. The building was air-conditioned, but he couldn't stop shaking. A camera blinked red in the corner. The email's subject line glowed on his monitor. Clause 14, forged designs, penalty triggered. Makoto ran to the exit. It was locked. A voice echoed from the speaker above. You forged your way into my life, let's see how long you survive in mine. He collapsed into the chair, gasping. Weeks passed. Christina and Tanya both quietly accepted cleaning jobs at Panda Corp. Not because they needed money, but because they couldn't stay away. Tanya wore a dull blue uniform now, she cleaned the labs she once would have ruled. Christina patrolled as a low-tier building security guard, badge number 0312, no privileges. Every day, they saw Daryl, no, George, walk by. Always in tailored suits, always on a call, always followed by executives, reporters, or security. He never acknowledged them. Tanya whispered once, he really forgot us. No, Christina replied, he didn't forget. He just doesn't care anymore. And it hurt worse. 1 year later. A company anniversary gala was held at the Panda Glass Dome, 25 years since its founding. George stood at the podium, emotionless. Toasts were made, speeches given. Outside, cameras flashed. Makoto, dressed in black, stepped out of the crowd, in his hand, keys to a delivery van. Security was distracted. He turned the ignition, drove toward the lobby glass. Inside the dome, Daryl, George, was shaking hands with a foreign investor. The headlights blazed through the windows. Tires screeched, glass cracked. Christina saw it first. Tanya saw it next. They didn't think. They didn't speak. They ran. Bodies flung forward. Glass shattered. Time froze. And then, silence. Blood pooled. Security rushed in. The crowd screamed. Makoto was yanked from the wreckage, screaming incoherently about how Daryl stole his life, but nobody looked at him. All eyes turned to the two women, Christina and Tanya, collapsed, bleeding, on the cold white marble. One had her arms still outstretched, the other still had tears in her eyes. George stood still, expression unreadable. He walked forward slowly, looked down at them. A familiar scene. One he remembered vividly from another life, when he once lay there, bleeding, beneath a chandelier. When nobody reached for him. Christina blinked up at him. Tanya whispered, We saved you. He nodded once, coldly, silently. No gratitude, no forgiveness. He turned and walked away. The cameras didn't follow him. Nobody asked for a statement. The world simply watched in silence as the man who had once given everything now gave nothing. And that was the true revenge. No anger, no outburst, no breakdown, just a closed heart. Daryl's final narration. I gave them everything, my time, my love, my future. And when they chose someone else, I erased myself from the script. Some betrayals never deserve forgiveness, and some stories are better erased.